Welcome. I'm Peg Luksik. I'm the Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I thank you for taking the time to join me today. Let me start by telling you a little bit about myself. I was born in Alabama because my father was in the Army, raised outside Philadelphia, went to college in Clarion, taught outside of Erie, married a gentleman from Pittsburgh, and now my husband and I live in Johnstown. We've been married for almost 39 years, and we have 6 children, and they are all girls, except for 5 of them. It's an IQ joke, how'd you do? My children don't live in Pennsylvania, most of them, because they had to leave to find jobs, and I think that's really sad. My personal history is I was an advisor to the Reagan administration. I am one of the founding board members of the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference and the Pennsylvania Family Institute. I was the strategist behind the passage of the Pennsylvania homeschool law. So if you homeschool your children, you're quite welcome, because I'm happy to have been able to work with those fine folks to enable that in our state. I am by trade a teacher. I've taught everything from preschool through college in both special ed and elementary education, and in every educational setting you can imagine. Whether it's a regular classroom, I ran a resource room, created a GED program, a preschool program, worked for the U.S. Department of Education for some years, was a leading national opponent of outcome-based education, and now travel the country fighting Common Core, the latest experimental overreach by the federal government. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because I believe that we have come to a place where the government needs to be responsive to the people and to be accessible to the people. My history has been that while I work from the private sector, I've been very effective in making government respond, whether it's in education or in some of the fiscal issues throughout the years. A number of weeks ago, I was talking to a group of high school students, and they asked me if there was such a thing as an American culture. And I thought that was really sad, because they didn't know. There is such a thing as an American culture. And it's founded on the fundamental belief that you and I are created beings, and that our Creator endowed us with rights. We don't have rights because we belong to a group or have a label, and we don't have to fight other groups in order to gain rights. We have rights as individuals because we were created with them. The first of those rights is our right to life. And from the moment of conception on, we have the right to exist. Because if government can tell any of us that we do not have the right to our own existence, it can tell all of us that we don't have the right to our own existence. And that means we don't have any rights at all. We also have the right to direct our own health care. Single-payer, government-run health care puts the state in charge of who gets what health care under what conditions. And if we can't direct our health care, we cannot control our lives. It means we have the right to liberty. The Pennsylvania Constitution says that our right to bear arms shall not be questioned. That says it better than the federal government. And I think it's an important aspect. Being able to protect our lives and our property enables us to preserve and defend the freedoms that we were endowed with. The Second Amendment protects the rest. And so if we're going to protect all of our rights, we need to maintain our ability to bear arms. It also means that we're equal before the law. Sanctuary cities, illegal immigrants, those programs and policies basically change us from a republic, a government of law, to a government of whim, where everyone isn't equal, and some really are more special than others. And that is antithetical to what America was founded on. It means we have the right to direct our futures, to pursue our own happiness, to become the person we were created to be. That begins with property rights, the right to hold on to the fruits of our own labor. Property tax denies us the right to own the property that we worked for and purchased and paid for. It's an antiquated system, and it needs to be changed immediately. It means that our education system needs to refocus on its mission of educating our children. Our children aren't the products of our schools. They should be the clients of our schools, where they're given the academic knowledge and the American heritage to pursue their own destinies. Common Core is a failed experiment. It is a disservice to the children of Pennsylvania and of this nation, and we need to work together to remove it from our public schools. It means we need to have the right to interact with our Creator. Isn't it sad that in so many of our schools our children are allowed and sometimes even encouraged to kneel in disrespect of our flag and forbidden to kneel in respect for the Creator? That needs to change. It means we have the right to follow our conscience, whether it's not baking a cake or not participating in an abortion. Each of us must be given the right to live in accord with the dictates of our religious beliefs, and no government should be coercing us into violating them. Interestingly, government doesn't have any rights. Government has responsibilities, and it only has the authority we give it to exercise the responsibilities that we have delegated to them. That means that government needs to be transparent. Government really doesn't have any assets. All the assets in government coffers belong to we, the people. They don't belong to the state. So every government entity at every level should be absolutely transparent about how much money it has where, so that we know what the government has and therefore can hold them accountable for how they spend it. It means every tax should be clearly placed on the table. Hidden taxes are anathema. Pennsylvania pays the highest gas tax in the country, but I bet you can't tell anyone how much you pay in gas tax every time you buy a gallon of gas. In fact, it's 77 cents, and that's quite a bit. In a 10-gallon tank, it means you've paid more than $7 every time you fill a 10-gallon tank. That's a lot of money, and the government should be telling us how much they tax us. It means that every budget item should be clearly labeled and only used for the purpose that it was collected for, whether it's transportation funds, whether it's healthcare funds, whether it's welfare funds. Any money that is collected should be used only for the purpose that we were told it was going to be used for. It means that regulations should not be contradictory and burdensome. You know, the federal government's doing a good job at eliminating regulations. It's time Pennsylvania did the same, so that we can have a climate where businesses want to come here, so that the sad fact that all of my children having to move away isn't something that your family has to experience. Wouldn't it be nice if our children could find jobs in the state that we live in, so that we could be close to them? Not because they want to move away, but because they're forced to by an environment that is so hostile to any kind of business in our state. It means that we need to be able to proclaim our own heritage. We need to be able to defend it and stand in support of it. You know, President Reagan used to say that freedom isn't passed on through the bloodstream. Freedom must be defended, it must be articulated from each generation to the next, so that we never become the people that have to tell our children about a United States that used to be free. Well, I'm a mom and now a grandmom. I have no intention of being that generation for my children or my children's children. And I believe that defending freedom begins by proclaiming it without anger, but without compromise. And a lieutenant governor's chair is an amazing place to be able to do that. I'm running for lieutenant governor by myself. It is a separate elected position. You know, we've heard about the governor candidates who've chosen running mates, but the lieutenant governor doesn't work for the governor. The lieutenant governor may work with the governor, but like every elected official, the lieutenant governor works for you, and so should be chosen by you and held accountable to you to do the job. I come from the people because I believe it's time we have a voice in Harrisburg that speaks for the people. I thank you for joining me today, and what I would like to ask you to do, now that we've chatted just a little bit, is explore the resources on our website, which is paforpeg.com. The reality is, politics takes money. In order to be able to give literature and travel and information, all of those things require us to pay for them. So if you like what you're hearing and you want to participate in this campaign, step number 1 is to visit the website and make a contribution. Any amount is deeply appreciated. You know, my history's in nonprofits, and I have been told laughingly over the years that I have a tendency to get a dime's worth out of every nickel. I run this campaign the same way. We don't pay big salaries. We don't have expensive offices. Everything that we have spent has been designed to take our message directly to you so that you can participate in this campaign and be a part of it. The second thing I would ask you to do is be a precinct captain. Your host or hostess is going to hand to you a handout that has a list of 25 blanks. And one column says name, and one column says phone number, and one column says email. I want you to fill in those 25 blanks with the names of 25 people who will vote for me on Election Day, May 15th. Politics is funny. There are 3 groups of people in politics. We laughingly call them the saints, the sinners, and the atheists. The sinners are the people who will vote for your opponents. The atheists are the people who don't vote at all. And the saints are the people who vote for you. We're asking you to find the saints. Now remember, I'm running statewide, so don't think geographically. Think about anyone you know in the state of Pennsylvania, from Erie to Philadelphia, who might be a friend or a relative or a coworker that would believe, as we do, that it's time that the government become more responsive to the people once again. And ask them if they would spend some time on the website and see if you can get them to commit to vote. And if they do, they're one of your 25 people. You want name, phone number, email. The night before the election, you're going to call those 25 people and remind them that tomorrow's Election Day and they need to vote. And you're going to ask them to contact you after they have voted. If you haven't heard from them by about 6 o'clock, give them a call and remind them that it's Election Day so that they remember to go to the polls. In the end, all that counts is how many of the saints we deliver to the polls on May 15th. And you can be an important part of that effort by identifying and delivering your 25 voters to the polls. Now, if you're like most of the people who attend, you're probably a married couple sitting there. Take 2 forms and then race through the 25. You can put your own name on your own form, and then you can divide family members and friends up between you, but make it a contest to see if between you can come up with 50 instead of 25. Politics in the end isn't hard. It doesn't require any magic. It doesn't require millions of dollars. It requires a basic sum of money and then people reaching out to people to step up and take back control of their government. This is a people's campaign. And so I am speaking to you and asking you to join me in stepping up and making a difference in Pennsylvania. You know, it's kind of funny. The bell of freedom, that Liberty Bell, rang here first. Somehow it's appropriate that as we move forward, the bell of freedom ring here in Pennsylvania once again. Thank you so much for paying attention. God bless you.